Hello and welcome to the Westcity Church podcast. If you'd like to get to know us more, find us at westcitychurch.com.au. We really hope that you're encouraged by today's message.
So KN, you're up. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you. Josh is not here. Oh, there he is. But these three beautiful men, when I sat down this morning, I thought, oh yeah, I'll just get up and say a few words. But something's happened since I sat down, and now this is so much harder to say these words because I'm up in my emotions. So I'm talking about the communion table, and as has been said, at the end of the service, we get to approach the front and receive communion. So this is we're thinking about that. So I'm just sharing something that happened in my week. This week, a young man I've known some time, I saw him, and before I could get out of my seat, he's hugging me. And he knocks the hat off my head, and I get to my feet, and I say, oh, I'm glad you're here. Earlier in the week, this is not even the hard bit. Earlier in the week, he'd overdosed, and he'd been in an induced coma, medically revived. And I said to him, as I stood there face to face with him, this young man, I said, I'm glad you're here. What do you want? And he said, Kev, I want to live. I want to live. So I thought to myself, there's communion talk right there. I want to live. What is life? You know, the work that I do, I've done for many years now. I work with men and women, but predominantly men. And this idea of life, what is it? I would say it's hope. I think the best word is to live is to hope. And that is to hope is this being open. It's, hope, often we think hope is like just a feel-good emotion or something. I don't even think it is emotion, hope. I think it's a stance. It's a way you hold yourself. Open, vulnerable, authentic, honest. I think it's hope, that stance of hope. And that's how you live. You live on your feet, open. And I think it used to make me very curious as to what was happening. It took me many years to work it out. Many of us, the work that I do, many of the men and women I work with are afraid to hope. They have a fear of hope. If you've experienced trauma, you don't want to experience it again. And they live in a fear of hope. But the problem is, life is full of these stages. And if you don't hope, you don't transition. You get stuck. And most of the men and women I work with are about 14 years old. Well, they're closer to my age in reality, but they're actually dealing with a 14-year-old. They've got stuck. And you get stuck when you have this fear of hope. And so what I do, and the work that I do, is initiation. Initiation is helping get people unstuck, getting them moving to the next stage and the next stage. And in my own life, I've loved deeply 3 or 4 women, all in the person of Kathleen.
That was a good follow-up.
We are always changing. But sometimes you get stuck. Sometimes you get stuck at an age. And you do poor initiation. We don't do initiation well in our society. And I deal with it on a day-to-day basis with men and women. So I'm supposed to set my timer. I have no idea where I am now, so forgive me. I've written down on this so I shut up. This is really to help me to shut up once I've said it. So anyway, what's death? If that's life, what's death? Genesis 3, we see Adam and Eve. They're hiding in the trees. They hid from God in the cool of the day, the breeze of the day. And this is death. This being unseen as opposed to open and hopeful. It's a closeness, an unseenness. It's a losing focus when we take our eyes off and we look at the things that block us, our problems, our fears, rather than looking to love. It's a losing focus when we look to comfort, and this is very common. We look to comfort rather than risking love. That's death, I think. There's many ways to die in this society. There's many ways to die. And we all know that others are going to die. What we don't know is that I am going to die. A good friend of mine, a friend who's closer than a brother, he got news on Friday that he's just got a few months to live. He's got cancer. He's my age. I know his wife and his children. But he's a good man. He's a man that hopes. He's a man that stood with me many a time in the breach for other men. He's a man that stood shoulder to shoulder with me. I believe he will hope in this time. The terrible thing, I work with medicine in the the thing about medicine is it doesn't help you live. It just helps you not die as you die. That's all it does. It is hope that allows you to live. It is hope that allows you to live. Yeah. And so the work that I do with men and women, the hope that I do with men and women is helping them through the stages of life, stages of initiation. Faith, hope, love, Paul talks about in Corinthians 13:13. Faith, love, in the middle. If we don't hold ourselves with hope, you don't get to live. Open, staying vulnerable, staying honest about the good and the bad, and staying authentic to your true self, for who you truly are. So finally, Jesus was coming into Bethany. We read it in John 11. He was coming into Bethany, and Martha runs out to meet him, and I imagine her falling on her knees. Her brother's tomb is behind her, Lazarus. And in that conversation with Jesus, Jesus says, I am the resurrection. I am the life. So I'm glad you're here this morning. And as you come to the table, I ask on behalf of Christ, what do you want?
I reckon one day one of us is going to rock up and we haven't prepared anything and we're going to say, you know what, just turn to the person next to you and we'll let that go for 20 minutes long. And then we'll say, all right, everyone out for coffee. All right, so I'm doing the Gospels component of the greatest story ever told. This drove me a little bit nuts, if I'm being honest. This whole series, I'm like, there is so much to talk about, and we get 20 minutes, and there is no way to do it. Really, we spend the whole year looking at the Gospels. We spend every you've been a Christian, you've spent your time looking at the Gospels. I'm not about to teach you anything in 20 minutes that you haven't already heard about the Gospels, but I do want to talk about the context. But before that, just want to tell you about my preparation process. I was a little bit silly this week when I was preparing. Next slide. I thought the best way to jump in was to watch The Life of Brian. It gave me nothing to work with at all, but it was fantastic. If you haven't seen it, please watch it. If you have, rewatch it. It's fantastic. No, there's a few little things that I pulled up from there. Next slide. Then I got my little ADHD brain got really stuck into some other stuff, and I was looking at the how much sparrows cost in the Bible, and obviously there's two different prices for sparrows, which how do they get anything right if they can't agree on the price of a sparrow? Next slide. Oh, this is just me procrastinating. I had to make a coupon for sparrows. Next slide. All right, now we're getting serious. Beautiful. So we're chatting about the Gospels this morning, which is fantastic to do. Next slide. I need a clicker or something. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about how a text without a context is a sure sign you're being conned. Again, a text without a context is a sure sign you're being conned. If you don't have the context of something, it's very easy for someone to lead you into a trap of saying, well, this is what it means, and you just accept it and go, oh, I guess so, But if you have the context of when the Gospels were written, like what was happening in the world around them, what was happening in the lead up to the Gospels being written, you start to be able to answer questions like, why did we need Jesus to come? What was Jesus saving us from? What was the world like? Why did the world actually require God's intervention at that time in that place? So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about some of the geography, the economy, the politics and stuff of the time to basically inform everything else that we read about the Bible. Because I'm not going to do four Gospels, just spit them out in 20 minutes and just hope that you have some sort of revelation. The other thing that I will say about context, I was driving here this morning, and sometimes I look up and I'm like, oh, how did I get here? You know, I've been driving for a while, and all of a sudden there's a blue car in front of me. I go, oh, hello, sir. You know, and you kind of just autopilot, and I definitely fall into the trap of autopiloting reading of the Bible. I just kind of go through, oh yeah, Jesus went there, then he goes there, then he goes there. Okay, and I got to the end. Great, start again. I want you guys to have this context because I want it to be a bit of a meatier read. You know, I want you to be able to look at something and go, okay, well, this is what the text is telling us, and this is what the text isn't telling us, but we know it's happening in the background, and this is probably what we can use to colour in the gaps in between the two. So today is about context. So we're going to start off with the geography of the world. Next slide, please. Thank you. All right. So at the time, there's me in the corner in Western in the Pilbara when I made this. I'm eating a mango. So at the time, and I want to point. Can someone help locate where Israel is there? So if you look between Egypt and Syria, that's where Israel is, and so you essentially have this tiny little land bridge between the known world. So to the northeast, you've got Mesopotamia, so Babylon, Assyria, Persia, Iran, stuff like that. And to the northwest, you have Anatolia, which is modern-day Turkey. You've got Greece, you've got the Roman Empire, and then to the south, you've got Egypt and all the African continents. And you have this fantastic, next slide, you have this fantastic little land bridge where the whole world has to actually intersect. If you want to pass, if you want to trade things from the north to the west or south to east or whatever, you've got to actually come through this bit. The really important thing as well is that there's natural land barriers. So the ocean isn't just a barrier, and the little land bridges themselves aren't the only ways to interpret the terrain. You also have deserts that people wouldn't be able to pass through, which act as natural barriers and such at the time. And so if you're walking with say camels or donkeys through the desert, they need grass, they need water. You need to be able to stop and get supplies. You need to be able to move. So these are all the things that we need to consider when we're reading the Bible. It helps us understand when people talk about the road to Damascus, what road they might go. And I'm going to touch on that in a sec. But so the context, right, is we've got these trade routes such as the Via Maris, which is via the sea, which is the nice West Coast drive, if you will, if you're going up the coast. And along the Via Maris, you often have Egypt going to Syria, Mesopotamia, and then you also have the King's Highway, which deviates, I guess, from Egypt and goes along the east side of the Dead Sea, which you can see there, and then would generally take people up towards, Iran, or what is modern-day Iran. Economically, without economically, you have coastal plains and valleys which are fertile, wonderfully fertile. So that's where you're actually going to be able to grow all the bits and pieces that you need, your dates and such. Also, people use the Dead Sea to extract salt. It's extremely important for them in being able to preserve fish and being able to preserve foods and stuff. There is a military significance as well for conquering invaders to hold this area, in that Israel essentially offers a buffer zone. So at the time, you often had, not going to remember the name, anyway, the Parthian Empire fighting on with the Romans all the time, and Israel served as the perfect buffer zone. Also gave protection to Egypt as well. So any invading conqueror, you need to secure Egypt before you can get Israel, before you can get somewhere else. Israel is essentially just a little sacrificial lamb in a war. for the invading forces. And it's a strategic choke point as well. So there's natural fortifications and defensible terrain. So it's hill country around Judea, especially around Jerusalem. And this actually provided a defensible high ground for people to ward off attacking invaders. And also to the right-hand side, there, you have the Negev desert, and to the south, it creates a natural land barrier. Next one. Oh, next one. Skip that. It's a boring map. Skip that. Thank you. All right, economically. What is the economics? I know this sounds like a Year 10 presentation. We're going to jump back in a second, all right? Let me tell you about Israel. All right. Agriculture is the backbone of the local economy. So the people who were living there at the time, wheat and barley, grapes, olives, fruits such as figs, dates, pomegranates. Fishing is a massive part of the economy, and then also salt, as we mentioned, from the Dead Sea. The trade routes through there, so Arabia and Mesopotamia, they would trade incense and spices. Egyptians would trade grains and papyrus and linen, and a big source of income for the occupying force was taxation. They would tax people either by going up to them and say, hey, you need to pay a land tax, we need you to pay a poll tax, or you're going to use this road here, you actually need to pay a fare, what's called a toll fare. Customs, thank you. And they would put these along strategic parts of the King's Highway and different ports and stuff, taxing goods coming in and out. But the majority of people in Israel, native to Israel, worked as tenant farmers on the lands of more wealthy landlords. Next one. So I'm trying to get through this boring stuff as fast as possible, but it is really important. So there's three really big periods that happened in the lead up to the Gospels, which you need to understand. A text without a context is a sure sign you're being conned. You need to understand what's happening historically to actually set things up for the Gospels. So Alexander the Great invades about 332, and he sets in Hellenistic rule. And so there's two different periods of Hellenistic rule. You've got the Ptolemaic period and the Seleucid rule. The Ptolemaic is generally a pretty lax one. They introduce a lot of Hellenism into the local people. And then there's the Seleucid rule. They start off all right, but then eventually they start going, hold on, you're not going to carry out any of your Jewish religious practices. We're going to stop you guys from being Jewish. We're actually going to force Hellenization upon you. Out of this, you have the Maccabean revolt, and the Hasmonean dynasty come out of that. The Maccabees obviously go, we don't like that, we're a Jewish sect, we're going to remain Jewish, although we do like some of your Hellenistic things, and they revolt, and we have the Hasmonean dynasty for, 100 years, 99 years. And they established themselves as kings and priests, and even from exile, you had two schools of thought. You had the Pharisees and the Sadducees, those who believed in the written law and those who believed in the written law and the spoken law, I guess. These two groups really come out in the Maccabean revolt, more so because the Maccabees, they insert themselves as kings, as priests and stuff, and it creates an aristocracy for the Sadducees, which will come when Jesus comes out, becomes a really important part. And then eventually people get sick of the Hasmonean dynasty kind of starts to fall apart because two brothers get into a big argument. It starts a civil war. They both go to Pompey, General Pompey. I'm so glad that Kathleen's here. General Pompey, and then General Pompey goes, right, you two are arguing, Rome's going to invade, goes in, and then out of this, we eventually have Herod come on the scene. I'm going to link into the Westcity Facebook page a great podcast about Herod, which is 4 hours long. I listened to it all again this week in preparation for this. I'm going to share none of it with you because we need to get through this stuff. But basically, Antipater the Idumean, he was a political figure who supported Julius Caesar. He was the chief advisor to the high priest. He's also Herod's dad. When he dies, Herod gains favour because Herod aligns with Mark Antony and Octavian, who becomes Augustus Caesar. Thank you again, Kathleen. Parthians invade Judea. Herod flees to Rome. He says, hey guys, I need your help. They go, no worries, you're going to be the king. We're going to send you with an army. And then once again, the Jews with the help of Rome, retake Israel. Is anyone dizzy with all the facts yet? Are you taking this all in? Because there is a test at the end and I need you all to pass. All right, fantastic. And look, and Herod's like, he's not loved. He's a Jewish man or of Jewish descent who has a Hellenistic lifestyle. He really likes the way that they live. He really likes everything that they've contributed to the economy and stuff. He likes being king, but also he colludes with Rome. He works with people who are an occupying force for other people, and a lot of people kind of going, don't really like that. Not really sure if that's nice. Last one, politically. I just thought that was funny. I looked up Herod, and he's available on eBay. Actually, it's Jesus Herod on eBay. So, all right. So, I want to give you guys I'm going to give you 6 groups. We're just going to go through them, right? And then we're going to start to land this, and you guys will go, "Wow, that was actually really good. All that context was really helpful in the end." So we've got different groups. So we've got the Pharisees, prominent religious group, strict observance of the Torah and oral traditions. They emphasise purity and holiness in daily life. They oppose Roman rule, but they weren't politically radical. They were kind of like your blue collar, like I don't know, it's going to be okay, Then you had the Sadducees, who were the aristocrats. These were the rich boys and girls. They had very low public support, but represented the majority of the Sanhedrin because Rome really liked them. They worked. They were conservative. They only accepted the written Torah, and they collaborated with the Romans to maintain the status quo. Then you also had the Herodians. Now, the Herodians weren't an exilic group. So you Pharisees and Sadducees were the 2 groups post-exile. The Herodians were kind of more of a political party, just going, we love Herod. Herod is great. He maintains the status quo. Crime is down. Crime's great in here. We're making money. Happy days, good on you, Herod. And Herod, as a result said, well, you like me, I like you. This works both ways. Then you had a group called the Essenes. These guys looked at the whole thing and they just go, this stuff is a mess. We're leaving. We're going to the desert. We're not talking to any of you. You're all corrupt. We're going to just try and live the way that we can understand to live in community and loving people and not cheating people. And so they established the Qumran community and a few other communities but they just went and did their own thing, which is not a bad idea when you look at the mess that Israel's in. And then you had the Zealots, they sound cool to me. The radical group advocating for violent insurrection. And they're like, God alone should rule over Israel and no one else. They were hardcore nationalists, and they would later lead to revolt against Rome in 66 AD. And then we see everything kind of go up in flames in 70 AD. But then there's a group that they don't really get a mention in the Bible, but they are probably the most prevalent people, and these are the people that I want to talk about who are impacted by all of that context. They're called Amei Haaretz. Oh my, I'm so glad. God bless the nerds, hey? God bless the nerds. And Amei Haaretz? Haaretz. All right. Haaretz. Anyone else? Okay. They're the people of the land. They are the you and me's. They're common folk, generally poor, generally uneducated. They're not religiously observant. They're economically oppressed by heavy taxation, marginalised by religious elite. But they're the people that Jesus is usually administering to in the Bible. They are the people that when we think about the Sermon on the Mount and you think about the hordes of people, it's generally the common folk that have come out to see them. It's generally the common people that Jesus is going, but there's hope. So these people aren't generally engaged in what's happening politically. They're not really engaged in religious practice. They've got fields to plough. They've got taxes to pay. They've got places to be. They've got kids to feed. All that stuff is happening for them. Life is just happening around them, and they're not too in control of everything. Can we go to the next slide? I give you guys this context because I want you to have a foundation, but I want you to know that a foundation isn't a house built. A foundation is something to build a house on. A foundation might be the walls and stuff, and you actually get to add all the trimmings and beauty to it. Understanding the context of what's happened in Israel and the lead up to it, how you've had a horde of different rulers come through, people using your land that God has told you this is your land, this is your place, and having that being used as a buffer zone in different wars, having people come and bastardize your culture largely and say, no, it's going to be Hellenistic now and we're going to enforce you to live a certain way. This all plays into people's lives and it trickles down in a way where, when you're doing that thing where you're driving on the freeway and you kind of skip how you got somewhere, don't miss when you're reading the Bible that these are people that loved like you and me. These are wives that wish that their husbands would plant a pomegranate tree for them. These are people whose father has not come back home because there's been a workplace accident, and mum is left wondering how she's going to pay tax or actually make a living, an income. These are people who passed by in the land and they were just coming through and they saw a miracle from Jesus and go, wow, that was pretty cool. And they went on with their lives and wondered for the rest of their lives how wonderful that was. Don't miss at all that people had deep wonders and deep dreams and deep thoughts about the whole world. They felt just as deeply as you and I. The geography of these places, that people would be able to recognise that this was a park or this was a place that I would walk with my grandfather. Historically, being able to tie yourself 300 years back to people who perhaps did terrible things to your family, around your family, perhaps were your family, and having that actually inform who you are in this place. Hillsides that get muddied, that you can't plough, that you can't farm, that you've inherited. All this context matters so much because what this does, this context is like a red carpet for Jesus. And this context is what actually carries our God into the story of a people saying that we actually need liberation. Because we've had 400 years of occupation. For millennia, we've had trees that have grown here that are native to this place that we have farmed and that we have lived off of. And we're not allowed to touch those trees. We're not allowed to farm those trees. And even when we do, we're taxed on those trees. People take those things. They burn those things from us. They keep them from us. This is a story that is rich with need for liberation, but we only know that people need liberation in the story when we can read in the context that tells us that they need liberation. Don't miss that these are people like you and me. Don't miss that you are the Haaretz. Haaretz. Jesus comes to heal a world that's sick. He doesn't come to conquer it like every other invader. He comes to tell a story. He comes to love. He meets people where they are in the fact that their lives are messy and that they are worrying about how they're going to pay for groceries or when their husband's going to come back from his fishing expedition. Their lives are wonderfully intrinsic and complex just like yours. Don't miss in the Bible that this is a story of people who are reaching out and wanting a better life. And that life is accessible, and they ask for a ruler who's actually going to lead them, not a ruler who is subject to Rome, not a Sanhedrin that doesn't listen to their whims and is disconnected to them, a people who don't want to be a common folk, disconnected from their religious practice, disconnected from any political power in the world and the world that they exist in. And if the band could come back up.
Thank you so much for joining us. Each week at West City, we say a benediction together. We do this because we believe that the purpose of the church is to be a caring community for the world, and that as we go and serve others, we enter into Christ's work of welcome, restoration and healing, both for us and others. We believe that in doing so, we get to see and encounter Christ. So let's say the benediction together. We come together as the church to be reminded of the go of Christ. So we will go out and feed the hungry, go out and clothe the naked, go out and fight for justice, go out and end oppression, go out and proclaim anew the old story, go out and associate with those who don't look like us, think like us, act like us, and don't even like us. And we'll do it all in the name of the one who sent us. His name is Jesus.